Hello, here we are with Katja Diehl, author of recently published Autokorrektur. People can see the book behind you. Congratulations on your book publication. That's super exciting. We've talked before, and I have some notes, but I thought it'd be really fun to start off with. You're about to go on your book tour, your book launch. So let's hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. I'm really looking forward talking to you.
Yes. So let's. You were mentioning before we started recording that your book tour will start this month.
Yes.
Okay.
On Monday.
On Monday. Okay, so we're two. So how are you feeling? You excited?
It's really exciting because, as we talked before, it's always black and white a bit in this kind of special situation, but maybe also in society for having this transformation process running. I always have hate and love. And so I think with the book tour, that is the candy storm starting right now, because people have read my book and told me, you see me. You see me as a person, you see me as a person who has needs of mobility. You see me as a person who is forced to drive a car, but I don't want to drive a car. And I understand reading your book that I can do something against it. Before I was like, okay, this is my life and it is functioning because I have a car. And now I see it in a different way. I want to have alternatives, and maybe I can do something at my city, at my house, at my hood where I live. And so I'm really looking forward to it, to meet these people. I had a lecture already in Halle an der Saale, which is in the eastern part of Germany. And they stayed afterwards and made a kind of what can we do meeting.
Oh, that's so great.
Which is really so good. It was really like I was flying home, so to say, sitting in the tram. And for me, it was really touching that they were asking, okay, but we can't go out without having something done with our city. So they sat there and have a beer and were talking about solutions and connecting.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, so I understand the book is was built on a series of interviews with people. Also, can you share a little bit about that, like the structure of the book, and also what inspired you to write it?
I am on my way as She Drives Mobility, which was my podcast first. And I was trying to only put females at the microphone, or people who are doing different things than they are always men in this kind of mobility system. In Germany, you have 8% of ladies in leadership positions, which is really, really low. And I was always working on this kind of, we have to change this system, but technique and innovation is not helping that much, because we need to see the people behind the mobility system. And we need to see if it's really a success that in Germany, we are always selling more and more cars, or if it's a failure regarding the politics we do in traffic systems. And I was always working on inclusion topics. I was always working on racism, sexism, ableism, all those isms, because I think that the traffic you see outside your house is always a mirror of the society. And if you don't see people with wheelchairs, if you don't see children, if you don't see elderly, there's something wrong, because they are a part of a society. And that's how I started to make more storytelling about it, because I started as a journalist and I always worked for marketing and press related stuff. And I'm good, I think, to describe things, to ask questions. And I asked at Twitter, okay, now I will write this book and I want to write it with you and tell the stories and not talk about you, which is always, I think, the mistake that people are thinking my mobility is their mobility. The system fits me, so it should fit everyone. And it was really overwhelming how many people approached me. Of course, not every one of them got into the book, but they always have some hints and some problems which they were telling me. It started with people who don't have a driving license. 30 million people in Germany are not able to drive a car because they don't did the driver's license. And they were telling me that it is like on a party and you're not drinking alcohol. Everyone is asking you why. So also, if people don't own a driver's license, it's like, why? Is there something wrong with you?
Right.
And I talked with people in a wheelchair that they need to book their train 14 days in advance in Germany, that they are depending on persons who will help you in, that there is no transport when their toilets are broken, so that you can't, sitting in a wheelchair, you can't decide tomorrow I will take the train and go somewhere where I want to go. And also the newest ICE generation of Deutsche Bahn, which was shown, I think some weeks ago, it's not barrier free. We have 2022, and we still separate people in wheelchairs from others who are also paying for their tickets. And I think it's starting when you, like me, when you're going with your Brompton, with your folded bike, you feel and see there are always escalators, there are no lifts running, and you will have blue marks on your body after taking it by yourself. And there were really touching stories also. I talked to a trans person. She has been beaten up and waiting at a bus system because she is really a good-looking girl, but she has this kind of male voice. So men were approaching her in a sexist way, wanted to get in touch with her, and he was denying it. And then it came from out of nothing, from sexism to brutality. And she is driving the car because she don't want to have these problems. And what I really felt like a really warm feeling, that she was never asking the question why I am driving this car. She was just talking to me saying, Katja, we are now talking, and it's the first adaptation of, okay, I'm solving problems that society gives me. I'm solving them because I want to be safe in my safe space, which is a car. Why can't it be a tube? Why can't it be a bus? And she was asking, why can't there be persons, nice persons, because she's using Deutsche Bahn. There are always people on the system. And if there is a system running which gave the opportunity to have a coach with a person on it, they can help with information, they can help to get people out and off, and they can help to feel security again in this system. And I think that the solutions, the people I was talking to are not so sexy, like Hyperloop and taxis who are in the air. They are touching humanity, solidarity, and empathy also for people. It should be okay that someone in Germany can say, I don't want to drive a car, I don't want to buy a car. But actually there are regions in Germany where you need a driver's license to have a good life, which is not okay, because everyone should be equal. And we are not equal regarding the mobility system. And I think it's not just Germany. That's why I'm always trying to put this book in English and trying to find someone who will publish it. It's about
it will be. It has to be. It has to be, because I have to read it, and I know so many people that have to read it. It is really a global problem. Your book belongs in several languages, and it will happen. So yeah. About Germany. So I'm familiar with, I've been to a few different cities, but I'm really curious to get your insight because you know you're German and you know the different German cities so well. So I love using the public transit in Berlin. There's so many different options. It's a very expansive city, so I can imagine on a daily basis. And I've lived in Bavaria and was car dependent in the rural region. But so you were mentioning the challenges with universal access and going with your bike and realizing sometimes there's not an elevator. I mean, that makes certain options impossible for people with, you know, a wheelchair or whatever to not even use the train. So would you say there are some cities in Germany that have really gotten high marks, or that you would rate high on their how they've developed universal access, that are kind of like good examples?
For me, the biggest problem is that from 1st of January this year on, it is a law that you should have barrier-free transportation systems, but they
Oh,
ignored it.
really?
This law was established to come in 2017, I guess. And we all know, okay, 5 years after, there will be this law. But how can it be that a train is still not barrier free? And they are telling, yeah, we should have this kind of, it was so fast, we needed this system. And I'm helping now people in wheelchairs with a kind of campaign, because they get their money back if there is no barrier-free system. And they are now forcing to get the money from the state, because of course they're angry that they are always forgotten, because they are not on the tables who decide what to buy, who decide what is barrier-free. And I think that it is about the German politics, that they are so car-centric for ages. And there are now 4,000 kilometers of rail system, not anymore, because they have been cut down, because we believe so strongly in cars that we thought we don't need it in certain regions. Here in Hamburg, as we talked before in our test about how I see the city, you have really good places which are really barrier free, but also Hafen City, which is a really new built area, hasn't been barrier free. There have always been this kind of steps you made. It has this kind of architect approach where you see, oh, really interesting buildings, but not thought as a lively neighborhood. It is now getting better and better, but it has to be shaped. And it's really, for me, the question, why don't you think it from the beginning? Why don't you put people in the teams that have maybe a wheelchair and driving it and know how to look if it's barrier-free or not? For me also, in Berlin, it is really, really nice. But if you leave the S-Bahn ring, so to say, the inner circle of Berlin, there it started sometimes to feel rural again.
Yeah.
Because there's lack of this kind of system. And I think it's just a mirror of the politicians that decided, they haven't been mean, but they didn't see that we always should have alternatives, always offering of people who should live their life without a car. It can't be that you always think that people are willing to drive a car. And I think that the decision makers are used to sit in the car. They don't drive a bicycle, take the bicycle or go by foot. Here in Hamburg, we have a senator that never owned a car. He's a bicyclist, he's a daddy, and that shapes the politician, I think, that can make decisions regarding his own life, because he knows how pain in the ass sometimes it is to ride a bicycle in his city.
Yeah, for this mobility paradigm shift, I like that you brought up that politician, because we do need politicians who know what it's like to walk the ground, and who are passionate walkers, passionate about public transit. Maybe it will take people like you to open the door, even, because we have to get people out of the car and introduce them to what it's like, and then set in motion the ideas. Oh, maybe we could put a ramp so that it's more inclusive. I love what you said earlier about the traffic you see outside your window as a mirror of society. If you don't see any people moving in wheelchairs in the city, you got to wonder, where are they? They might be forced to be passengers in a car because the city's not inclusive, and it seems like inclusive design should be square one, and I love that. Seems to be your mindset as well. Obviously, what are we doing with cities if they're not inclusive? Sustainable, talking about sustainable urbanism, inclusivity should be a baseline, and it has been ignored for so long. But I like that you also mentioned the car-centric culture in Germany, because it's really an important thread. But it's also interesting because your book can be so valuable in other languages, because I think the car-centricism the car-centric nature of Germany is very specific and unique and has its own history, but there will be so many parallels in other cultures, and I'm sure you see that. I love how you talk about at that specific book meeting, how afterwards they wanted to talk about solutions. That's something I like to discuss with you further, because it looks like, continuing on from this book, also with your background in mobility, like that's part of your role in life then, is to also help with the solution. So it's going to be really exciting to see that develop. You shared with me a story on our last call, and we were talking about imagination in urban space, something with your neighborhood. If you could share a little bit about that too. And I think it goes into this whole dynamic with car dependency and the lack of imagination about how parking spots can be used, et cetera. So if you could share your thoughts a little bit about, yeah, imagination and urban space moving forward.
Yeah, for me, it's really sometimes really shocking how people are not able to think their street in a different way or their city in a different way. But I have to share another story before, because in my ground floor lives a man who is using a wheelchair. And I put my my book on the letterboxes, and I was having this note to my neighborhood here. I wrote a book, and if you like to read it, please grab it. It's still not there anymore. They are all reading it.
Yeah.
And his wife came up to me, because we are on the same street, and she was like, "Oh, Katja, my husband always drives the wheelchair on the street here right now, because the walkability is bad, and also for him it's bad. He can't be on the sidewalks because it's always crunched, because people park their cars there and they are too heavy for it." And it was so, she was telling me he was so glooming to read this about another person in my book. She is the mother of two, and she wants to show them that she is proud of them and her, and so she's also entering the street space. And even if they are honking at her, she shows her little daughters, I have my way, and if people are parking in my way, I take the part of them to have my mobility still running. And I think the group of people who are in my book are really heterogene, and not, you can't understand that it's a group of people who wants to change maybe, but if you're hearing their stories, they are always need someone who asks questions or helps them to see that it's not okay how they are how the society is behaving towards them. And I talked with my neighbor, and was standing in front of a house, and he was like, "Oh, Katja, it's so important what you are doing, and it's really awkward that people are now having their campers even here for free. They can park anything here for free. But what will be after?" I was like, "Are you kidding me? No, I can't imagine. What will we do if the cars are away?"
I can think of so many things. Let's show them what we can do. Like, yeah.
I was trying to help, and I was like, I see urban gardening, I see people on a bench, I see that the ice man is coming, I see many bicycles, people walking. And then after he was like, "Ah, yeah, now I see it." And he has also, I had also ideas, but he needed me to jump, I think, and to be really bold, because I also, in my first lecture, I was taught that, oh yeah, how can we be less confronting? How can we be more embracing the people in the cars? And I was like, are you kidding me? We have been confronted for ages. We have been in serious trouble. We are trying not to die in our streets, and you are telling me you will be polite and asking, "Oh, can I have something from you?" No. And dream 120%, because you just get 80 afterwards. So don't be shy, think too big, ask for too much, because there is this kind of momentum at the moment, which is not coming from intrinsic approach of, oh, everyone should have a good life. It is coming from climate crisis. It is coming from wars. It is coming from fossil industry who is speculating with our fuel. And I think that people should understand that it's okay to be bold and it's okay to dream big, and they shouldn't be so nice, maybe to say.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Yeah, that goes back something we had talked about earlier too, is the difficulty in discussing car dependence, how agitated people get. So people who might not be interested in envisioning a car-free street, just for the good of all, they're not interested. But maybe because of rising gas prices starting to being challenged to think about things, these people can benefit from people that already exist, like you, who have the ideas there. This is what we can do, you guys. But I really appreciate your attitude about, yeah, why do we have to be really so nice and polite and embracing? We have been our whole lives, for decades, had car marketing, car advertising, car culture really imprinted on us. I didn't experience walkable urbanism until I was like 20, and moved off for my first job after 22, actually. I grew up totally car dependent and thought nothing of it. I didn't really know another way. And you and I both know so many people like that, billions of people.
Yeah, car sellers are drug dealers. It's the same system, so to say. I've been in my lecture in the eastern part, and I have been on a school with a 8-degree, like I think it was for like 100 pupil in 3 groups, and I was telling them about mobility change, and I asked them who will have a driving license, 100%, who will have their own car, 100%, who is willing to use car sharing, no one, who is willing to share the car with someone of the family, maybe like 5. And even with sharing the car with the family, it was like, oh, awkward. So they learn from their family. And it's also an educational part.
Yeah.
You are a really nice, worthy person, even if you don't drive a car. We don't have a substitute, I guess, for this kind of status symbol, which is showing I have a job, I can now own have my own car. And for these people, I was really working hard, managing, like, do you know people in a wheelchair? Do you know people who don't want to drive? And then after they're getting into it, and my mom doesn't like to drive because my dad always drives and she isn't used to it anymore. And my grandparents are really sick and then I was asking them, what do you think? Is it okay not to give them something else than a car? This would be okay.
Yeah.
So maybe the approach of my book is the right decision, not to be like, you don't have to drive a car if you don't drive it every day. It's right. More like, here are the people we are already missing in the system. Here are the people who are forced to have the car. Here are the people who are owning a driving license and everyone sees them as freaks. And here are the people who are not able to live in rural area because they don't want to drive a car.
Right.
And that it's maybe, I think that's something like an invitation. Drive your car, it's okay, but please secure that people are having alternatives right now.
Right. And that alternatives could be mainstream too, is what we need. And then, yeah, you're inviting by storytelling. And also, I mean, I can drive. I don't want to. And I think the system sometimes forgets that too. There are people that might be car dependent very reluctantly, and who, if given the opportunity to use public transit, or to walk or to cycle, might enjoy that very much, but they might not be able to do so safely. And then also the experience that many people who have grown up, and I think this is many people in Germany too, because car dependence is so high there, who grew up car dependent, and so they've never even really used public transportation. Maybe it exists, but it's never been an idea to try it out. So this kind of inspiring
part
that
of my
shift.
book also. There is this, he does it for pro bono jobs. He's from the rail business, and he took children when they come to school to trains.
Oh, it's
and he recognized that like 7 or 8 year old pupil get in the train the first time of their life. They know the station because they are buying newspapers there or bakery, but they never approach the trains because they are not doing this kind of mobility with a family. And he lives in a really, really, where you drive, where you into the train and you see this kind of scenery, and you can go around, and you also can pee. That is something. He was telling me that they have this really huge eyes, and imagine, and then I can sit beside my dad, not behind him, and we can see this together, and it's we can have a talk. And for me, it's really so sad to hear this kind of stories that they like trains, but they see. He was telling me this anecdote that they have to wait because there was a train crossing the street, and the dad was telling, that's why I hate trains. Aww. And the child in the front, in the back, of course, dislikes trains also, right. Because they got in the way of dad.
Yeah. Oh, wow. But I love how you described that, because sitting on your day is transformed when you take public transit. And I'm a mother, I could read a book to my kids. I can read a book and they're looking out the window. It's a completely different mobility experience. Yeah. And I think too, for people that use it, they might not think about car dependent people and the kind of struggles of car dependence. So I love what you're doing. We have so much to talk about, but I think we'll leave it for here. You have your book tour coming up on Monday, so I'm going to be looking for it. I hope you're going to be dropping some coverage of that along the way, because you're going to a lot of, I don't know if you want to share just a little bit of that. You're going to a lot of interesting places.
Yeah, for me, it's really, really, really like a gift, because I seed it and now maybe it comes to harvest, because just to give you a glimpse, it's also in car industry that they are inviting me for having like this kind of virtual lecture and discussing my book. I think they are progressive people who also have problems not to be seen, who also have problems what the industry is doing, and that they might not willing to transform. But I also will meet people in Vienna. I will having a lecture at the university also there. I will have a lecture in a wooden tram from the 1920s, where we have someone beside me. She will tell the story of the city, how the mobility changed and how they get into the system we are now running at. I will also have lectures with people who are all like in the kind of mobility changing systems. They want to have like the discussion, what can we do here? Do you have any ideas? It's really concrete. And my publisher is really astonished that there are so many people asking to have a lecture. But I think it's giving them arguments. It's giving them also the stories of the people who are missed in our systems. And it's really, I put some holiday from July to August, because also need the rest, I think. Yeah. But it's really also in autumn, and I'm really looking forward to see them all again, and to see that my book is doing something good. Because at the moment it's really virtual.
It's virtual?
Yeah, I don't meet the people. It's always like what we are doing. It's always like Zoom or other things, and I think it's really nice to see their faces and to get the energy in the room.
Absolutely. You can't beat that, getting the energy in the room. So I wish you a wonderful book tour. I hope to walk with you one day, maybe even plan some stuff together, some public transit, activities and walking. And I wish you a wonderful book tour, and I look forward to talking more. So thank you.
Thank you.